I'd say so, yeah. Since I come from Georgia, it's essentially a country which, for a majority of its history, had a difficult self-identification, where do we belong at, Asia or Europe. But the developments of the last century or so clearly identified us as Europeans. Even though we might geographically be or on the border or maybe veer a bit towards Asia, Georgian society, Georgian values, and Georgian aspirations are definitely headed towards Europe. I'd probably say the revolution in Georgia in 2004. But that was a significant event in the history of the country generally. But one of the most important parts that played a significant role for me personally was the were the words of the prime minister um, at the time, saying, "I am Georgian, thus I am a European." And since that point on, Georgia has been pursuing a very European-centric orientation as a whole. And beyond that point, my childhood basically was defined by growing up in the country, which was rapidly moving towards the West and towards Europe and EU particularly. Definitely Brexit happening. That might be a bit of a cliche answer, but I think it's an event that's going to mark EU and European community as a whole in the long run quite significantly. The first country to leave the EU as a whole, one of the founding members, a very significant country in terms of contributions towards the European Union. But more so, it marked this moment. I'd say it marked the point where people realized that EU isn't as strong as it might have been perceived to be. And the European values did come under significant risk at that point. So I think, yeah, Brexit would definitely be an answer for me. There's definitely a lot of things to point out. I'd say, from my personal opinion, personal point of view, I'd say it's granting more rights to Ukraine and Georgia. Well, Georgia, particularly for me personally. But that's marked a significant shift in the expansion policy of EU, because before that, even though we had aspirations towards the European Union, and even though there were still developments, the Euroscepticism was in the air. We weren't sure how the course would, how the development would take, like if you want us to be there or not. So that marked a significant change in this trajectory for the for Georgian and Ukrainian people. That whereas there was doubt about the EU before that, granting things like visa liberalization, which enabled Ukrainians and Georgians to travel to Europe without visas, was a significant shift, which essentially shattered the Euroscepticism in these countries and kind of returned the idea that the EU's aspirations might actually have a potential. I mean, aside from being able to travel to EU without a visa, I'd say probably the biggest impact the EU had on me, well, Europe had on me and my peers, would be funding various projects in eastern countries such as Georgia, no, also Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia, which promoted the like European ideals, financing various organizations which promoted education in these areas about specific topics that the EU is facing, specific topics that these countries are facing, and generally raising the awareness about how these countries might improve themselves and how society can improve themselves to integrate themselves into the European community, which I think is very important since some of the people in these countries, especially like outside of the major cities in the countrysides, tend to have very limited access to information, and that plays a major part in their lives to start determining themselves as Europeans. I'd like to think that the countries that still have aspirations to join the EU Georgia, Ukraine, a couple of others maybe, would like if they are part of EU, fully integrated into EU by 2030. I think that would be a great achievement for the European community as a whole. As would mark that EU is not just some sort of a closed, like extremely lucrative club, but it's open towards countries which are open to move towards Western ideals and to create a better environment for their citizens.